I'm Jack Nichols and welcome to World Title.
Good afternoon, ladies and gentlemen, and welcome to the 2021 Formula SimRacing Academy Championship, live from the Nürburgring Grand Prix circuit, brought to you by 3D Wrap, the SimLab, and Mazita eSports. I'm Alex Skinner. Joining me alongside is my ever-faithful cameraman and long-time serving commentator colleague is Felix van Delft.
Yeah, thanks, Alex. I'm looking forward to this race. Of course, the third race of the season here in the Academy Championship. Earlier today, we've already had the amateur drivers, the AMA drivers, doing some racing here at the Nürburgring GP in Germany. It's going to be a very exciting race, I think. This track is quite difficult to get right. Qualifying is going to be very important. Overtaking is going to be quite difficult. There's not a lot of long straights. But let's see how these drivers will cope. Of course, the last two races we've had a few very or few drivers that have been doing very well. Mantas Rekus has been doing very well in the first race. Pedro Gomes, of course, winning the race in Portugal last time around. We'll have a look at the championship standings after qualifying. But yeah, I'm definitely looking forward to this one.
Yeah, exactly. 36 laps around the circuit here, based, well, attached to the Nordschleife, and of course, a bit more refined nowadays for F1 running the Grand Prix loop instead of the full-on Nordschleife, but of course you still get plenty of action nonetheless, and of course, as you said, Felix, in qualifying as well. And it's going to be an interesting one today because, as we've seen, multiple different pole sitters over both events so far, and well, currently, with 5.5 minutes left, it's Jake Dennehan on the provisional pole, and of course, well, you know, that would make it 3 for 3. So great to see the Absneo Force Polonia guys currently up there as well. Only 2/10 back to recent Academy promotee Damien Skolron. So great to see him there as well. And of course, Harry Smith in third at the moment, half a second back for Netrex. But, you know, we do have a couple of penalties as well. For example, you know, we have O'Reilly and Madajak, who are both with back of the grid penalties, I believe. And then we do have a couple of other penalties as well, which I do have listed in front of me, which is Bodatovsky with a 4th-place grid penalty and Ampatzidis with a 4th-place grid penalty as well. But of course, as we come towards the end of qualifying, everyone's sort of starting their final runs now, making sure that they get as much, as much ability to run these laps as they can. And Well, we currently have Frank Hamming, Diego Moscato, Pignataro, and Batalla on improvements at the moment. Not necessarily pole improvements, but improvements nonetheless. So everyone's seeming to find that slight little more edge over their first run, Felix.
Yeah, Danahan just started his next attempt. First sector, not a personal improvement. Still a pretty good sector, 29.1. Which is better than both Scowron and Harry Smith behind him. Perhaps some different strategy philosophies. We've seen this throughout the first two races quite a bit. Some teams opting to go for really high wing, high downforce settings, but also, of course, then low top speed. So it's going to be more difficult to overtake for them during the race. But other teams opting for that lower downforce, higher top speed. And that's going to, of course, also come through a little bit in qualifying. Down the straights, they're going to have a bit more speed. Second sector for Danahan is a 35.3. Still a pretty good sector personal improvement. That's the green that you can see. Now coming up to the final corner. Let's see what he can do. Car looks nice and planted. Not a lot of corrections he has to make. And our cross start finish line improves his personal best. And improves his pole position time by just a few tenths. 127.069.
Yeah, and actually took that back off of Harry Smith, who then ended up to second place, only 2 tenths back. So the NetRex driver, first season in Formula Sim Racing, and already, you know, a lot of these guys showing some really decent pace as well. And obviously Danahan, very experienced in open wheel cars himself. Pasciuto is now up to 4th. I'm currently looking at Palashek, who then will move up to 8th. Only half a second actually off. So currently looking at the top 16 covered within a second, Felix. That is extremely, extremely close around here.
Yeah.
But of course, we'll look at Adam Rainey. He is obviously very experienced.
I think as well, yeah.
Oh, getting very loose on his outlap. We might add there as well. Not really the one thing that you want to be doing on your outlap here. Just trying to see if there's anyone else that is majorly on a lap. Well, Frank Hamming is currently on a lap from what I can see.
Yep.
So we'll see, comes across the first sector line, 29.4. So not an improvement, but of course we have seen drivers improve their laps due to the second and third sectors alone. Of course, first sector very slow, very traction heavy. So drivers, you know, seemingly can struggle a bit there, but make it up to the faster flowing sections, especially in these cars that are a lot more difficult to drive than years gone by. Up through the S's, very, very difficult corner to get right in GT cars. For Formula cars, well, flat out really. Able to make that turn nice and easily. He's going to come out across the second sector line momentarily. And we'll get that. It's a personal best improvement, 35.5. So he will look to be improving his time as he comes into the final chicane. Such a difficult corner to get right, especially with the raised curbing. Can really throw the car off balance through the final corner now. Don't get on the power too early or the rear end will come out on you. Out the final corner, down the start, finish straight and across the line is the improvement to 9th with a 27.7 6 tenths of a second off the back of Danahan now.
Yeah, as we watch Adam Rainey go through the first sector, a lot of drivers now on their final attempts. Remember, you have 3 hot laps in this qualifying session. The session itself has been 10 minutes long, but everybody has a limit of 3 hot laps. So within that time frame, they need to do 3 good laps. Otherwise, we're starting from further down the grid, of course. Rainey with a personal improvement in the first sector. This is the apex a little bit on the inside there. Has a bit of a wiggle on the exit of turn 7 there. Now through the Michael Schumacher has such a fast corner, flat out through qualifying. Should be flat out in the race as well. Now through the left, turn 10 and right, turn 11. Big oversteer there for Adam Rainey. Just catches the car, but surely that's not going to help his lap time. Indeed, not a personal improvement in the second sector. Now braking hard for the chicane. As you mentioned, Alex, high curbing here, so it's difficult to get the car on there. And once you get off, you need to make sure your dampers are set up correctly, that it doesn't bounce all over the place. Now, through the final corner, does improve a little bit up to P7, but it's not enough for a really good position. Harry Smith out of the final corner, massive correction, and that's his qualifying over. Damien Scowron goes to provisional pole position. Very good last lap for him and very good second sector, as you can see there. Putting him with a 1:27.034, just ahead of Jake Dennan.
Extremely, extremely impressive lap from the ground effect driver. We're now looking at Motorino, currently sat in 8th. He's looking at some very, very good improvements himself. Might actually jump himself into the top 5 potentially with the times that he's got at the moment out of the final chicane. Nice and tidy there. Nothing too spectacular, but nothing too out of the ordinary. Out of the final corner, the rear end sticks beautifully. He'll come across the line and he'll jump to 4th place, 3/10 exactly off of pole at 27.334. And well, I was right, up into the top 5, Felix.
Yeah, very interesting qualifying. And Scouron, who was promoted, if I'm not mistaken, was promoted from the amateur division today on pole position. Not by a big margin, but still very good performance from Scouron on pole position here at the Nürburgring for his first race within this championship, and that's a great achievement by itself.
Yeah, definitely, and great to see some of these, especially these new stars and new promotees, fitting in with the academy group so well. So here is the qualifying results. Damien Scouron on the pole at 27.034, followed by Jake Dennehan, only 0.03 of a second off. That is going to be one cracking story to tell as we go forward into the race session. Harry Smith third for Netrex with a 27.2, 0.25 seconds off the pole time. Christian Motorino will then sit in 4th with Petr Vagapov, another AMA promotee, in 5th. Then Cosmo Pasciuto for Royal Blue will sit in 6th, Diego Moscato 7th, Adam Rainey 8th, Petr Palachek in 9th, and Frank Hamming will round out the top 10. Top 10 separated by 6/10 of a second, Felix.
Yeah, awesome qualifying. This is only the academy division, of course. We've still got the pro guys and the World Championship guys coming up later today. Very exciting to see. But yeah, I think it's time to have a bit of a look as well at what the championship standings look like currently, because we've had an interesting first few races. Let's have a look if this shows the correct standings. Yes, it does. Tommy Yilitalo is leading that championship fight currently, because Montes Recusi had a really good first race, but in the second race wasn't able to get any points. Pedro Gomez, the other way around, didn't get any points in the first race, but won the second race. But Gitalo, he had a decent first race and also a decent second race, and with that, leading the charts of the championships so far. Of course, it's only after 2 rounds. There's still quite a few to go, up to 12 rounds. Let's see what he will be able to do today. He's starting down in 12th position, so that's going to be a tough cookie for him. Harry Smith looking much more promising in 3rd. But yeah, I'm very eager to see what Damien Scouron is going to do here.
Yes, agreed. And of course, we race here, Felix, and then instantaneously a week later we're off up to the Netherlands. So I wouldn't be surprised if a lot of drivers have, been struggling to, get as much practice in for here as the amount of work that a lot of these Formula Sim racing teams do, including the academy guys, who obviously have, for some of them, don't have the assistance of those World Championship or pro squads to help them out. Will probably be doing as much practice as possible to get themselves to the speed that they are at. And, have probably been trying to split the workload between here and the Zandvoort circuit. So it'll be interesting to see how that plays out, especially in a week's time. But of course, here today, a very cracking title fight. Of course, only 2 rounds in, so still plenty of time to go, as you said, Felix. But it's just a circuit that, is one that is very good for racing, but very, very difficult to overtake, especially in cars that don't have the DRS or the engine boost.
Yeah, that's indeed a big thing as well in this season's cars and format, of course. There is relatively small fuel tanks, so drivers need to refuel during the race. Next to that, the tires is just a hard and a soft compound. They need to use both those compounds at least once in the race. It's a 36 lap race in the Academy Series, so of course it's a bit shorter. But still going to be very challenging for them to get right that strategy. I think the maximum amount of laps you can do on one tank in this track is roughly 17. Might be mistaken there, but I think it's 17 laps roughly. So we're probably going to see the first pit stops in this race around 14, 15 laps in, I would say.
Yeah, it would not surprise me at all to see those guys in as early as that as well. And of course, plenty of time for us to find this out. Felix, of course, the longer race than the AMA Championship, and of course then shorter races than the Pro and World Championship races that we have coming up today. And of course, at a circuit like this, tyre wear isn't necessarily too much of an issue, but of course, it is something that you still have to keep an eye on, of course, and something that is still can make or break a race, especially if you start abusing those tyres, especially through that first sector where the traction is ever so critical. And here we go to the grid. So as we said, you know, Damien Scarron on that pole position, followed by Danahan, Smith and Mocciarino. They will then be followed by Vagapov and Pasciuto. Moscato as well, actually impressive. He is a promotee from Academy. I believe he's actually as well up into 7th. Looking down the grid a bit further outside of the top 10, we have Iannacone in 11th with Yelitalo in 12th. So the championship leader actually in 12th place on the grid, just outside the top 10. 13th will be Zaharov with Rimac in 14th. Andrea Miyahari-Soa in 15th and Sergio Obrolorente in 16th. 17th will be Vasilis Ampazidis, of course, suffering from that grid drop. And then Lushak in 18th place. Further down the grid as well, a couple of other names to mention. Zalagianis in 23rd. Massimiliano Riboli as well, point scorer at Imola, only in 21st as well. Pignataro in 22nd for the Ghost Speed team. Sean Jones down in 25th. Rusinak in 26th with Marachak in 27th. Not the first time those two have been together on the grid this season. And O'Reilly at the back of the grid in 28th for Valle.
Yeah, and the drivers are now getting ready to start their race. Caron just came out of the final corner. Interesting to see what tire compounds everybody is on. Some people are on the soft, some people are on the hard. It's actually really mixed. Normally, in the last two races, we've seen pretty much the entire top 10, the same tire, and then some mixing between that. But of course, with that tire rule lifted, everybody can choose whatever they want at the start of the race. Doesn't matter what they chose in qualifying. It's interesting to see there's a lot of differences here within even already the top 10.
Yeah, it's very interesting to see what the strategic masterminds of the future that we have here. And looking a bit there, Felix, looking at the 4th row of the grid, it's a very, very out of position Moscato there. Look very, very far to the right in his grid slot. Already looking very aggressive towards turn 1 off the start. So obviously launch control mandated here, so would not be too difficult. Engine already smoking actually for the NRWO team. But as we wait for the lights to come on now, engine's already smoking a very, very long grid signal. Someone is out of place on the grid, and I have a feeling, no, we take that back because it's 4 lights, 5 lights, and lights out. And the way we go, that was definitely a jump start from one of the valets there, I believe. But everyone will get away except for one of the Invictus cars. I believe that's Rainey, side by side to turn 1. Denahan on the inside of Scaron will maybe get the move stuck. No, still side by side coming through turn 2. Denahan has to back out, will allow Scaron into the lead. Positions changing down the order as well. We're currently on board with Moscato on the inside of Palashek. Trying to make his way through. Slight bit of a contact there in the midfield, but it's kind of expected early on. These guys will now make their way through, and that's Harry Smith trying to have a look at Denahan on the outside as well. You're not going to be able to get a move done there unless you're extremely alongside with a fair amount of overspeed as they head down towards the hairpin for the first time of asking. Will make that nice and easy. Scaron as well, already 1.2 seconds ahead, Felix. He has left them.
Yeah, very good start for him. He was challenged a little bit in that first sector, but now he's got the clean air. We'll be starting to push those soft tires to get as big of a gap as possible to the drivers behind him. Clean start overall, I think. A few bumps here and there. And I think, oh, well, that's a big bump for Roberto Pignataro. He's in the wall without a wheel. That's his race ended. We'll have a look at what happened to him exactly in a little bit. But overall, I think a pretty clean start, especially if you can compare it to some of the other starts we've had earlier in the season.
Yeah, of course. Actually, a very, very clean start, all things considered as well. Actually, just trying to see who was actually involved in that as well. I believe it was an NRWO car, but I'm not too certain there. I couldn't really tell. Meanwhile, on board with Kevin Morville, 3 wide onto the inside. And it's going to try and make it move. Actually, will he get a double? He's going to be on the outside of Andrea Mia-Harry-So. We're on board with Anspasilis here, the Abstineo Fos Bologna car. Oh, very, very close there. Having to actually jerk out of the way almost because of how early on the brakes Morville was. But of course, this is the fight down for the lower end, just outside of the points as well. Obviously, sorry, getting my words muddled up today, Felix. You never think I've been away for so long. But of course, 2 seconds up the front as well. Just keeping an eye on that gap as well. Just trying to see exactly how far away Scaron is actually going to pull from Danahan. And we're now going into a replay. I believe this will be what happened to Pignataro. So he's on the aim outside of a Force Bologna there. Let's see what happens. It makes the way through the S's. Nice and clean so far. I'm not too sure what's gone on. Potentially someone going for a... Oh! Hit up the rear. I didn't even actually see who that was that hit him up the rear too clearly in the mirrors either, but that was very, very, very unusual of an accident there. Anyway, back to the action as it is. We've got to fight for 5th as well because Pesciuto has got a nice train behind him. Vagapov and Palashak behind him as well. These guys doing the best that they can. But of course, it'll be interesting to see what these guys do because, well, of course, Vagapov on a different strategy to the rest of these guys as well, alongside Danahan actually, to make a point. Both on the hard compound or tyre here. So these guys, you know, looking to do something a bit different than those around them. Go a bit longer in that first stint and then see what they can do later on in the race. If the pace is what we've seen from these guys, then they'll be looking very nice and handy towards the end when they're on that softer compounded tyre, Felix.
Yes, indeed. Frank Hamming down in 9th place currently. All on that hard tyre. I think Danahan, like you say, because he's on that hard tyre right now, of course he's dropped about 3.5 seconds to Scarron. But he'll have the soft tyre later on in the race. If he can prove himself to have a bit more pace than what Scarron is having now, he might be able to get in front of him off the track in the pit stop phase, or maybe on the track with the fresher soft tires compared to hard tires, which of course have a little bit less grip. Petr Palacek and Peter Vagapov, one of them is going into the pit lane. Palacek is going into the pit lane. Is that because of an early stop or is that because of a penalty? I think it's because of a penalty.
It'll be interesting to see. We'll see if he actually stops in his box or not. That could actually be for that jump start, yeah, Felix, indeed. Because I remember mentioning it. I saw someone, I thought it was a valet, but I take that back. It was actually Patrick. Got a very, very good start, very early as well, which, well, sums it up really. It was definitely a jump start because the lights hadn't even gone out by the time he moved off the grid. So drops him out of the top 10, out of the top 15 even, Felix, down to 20th place. And here is that start actually as we add. So the lights are coming on now. You see them all of light on the tree. And then there it goes. Yeah, very, very clear jump that you can see him hit the brakes as well to try and mitigate that. But gained about, what, 1 or 2 places off of that alone. So, yeah, definitely warranted of the penalty there. It's a shame these things happen. Very easy to do, especially if you accidentally let off the launch control button ever so slightly. But, of course, back up to the fight for 5th place at the moment, which is between Vagapov, Moscato and Hamming. All of these guys on the hard, so these guys going very long in that first stint. And, well, 4 hard runners in the top 10, Felix. It's actually impressive for the start of the Academy race. Very rare to see that this early on.
Ooh,
meanwhile, that's Danahan in. So, Dennehan probably seeing Belichick and maybe reacting, thinking, oh, I think that was an early stop, but not too sure. In he comes, stops in his box, up on the jacks, and we'll go on to a set of soft tyres. So interesting.
Not
We'll come
a very long stop as well, only about 7 seconds, so interesting to see. Perhaps taking just enough fuel to get to the end on these, to do a full stint on this soft tire. It's a bit weird, interesting what he's going to do, because he's also not really in clean air. About a second in front of him is Peter Palacek, Ribioli in front of that as well. So let's see what he will do and what his competitors will do in response to this.
Yeah, it'll be interesting to see. The main ones that we'll be having to look at, maybe, we'll have to be looking at those guys that are on a soft, because obviously they will be going a fair distance, but of course they're not going to want to let Dennehan get too much advantage, but they'll know that he's going to be in traffic with how close the field is at the moment. So I think they'll probably stay out slightly longer, ensure that they have a nice gap to everyone else, and then maybe come down a bit later. Of course, Skurrell now with a 5.5 second gap over Harry Smith. Felix, is this guy going to be a pro at the next round? Because I think with a 5.5 second gap already in 6 laps, I think this is a bit insane here.
Yeah, we're gonna have to wait and see what the race director says about that. This battle for effectively 5th place is heating up more and more. Everybody lining up behind Moscato here. Vagapov first in line, but Frank Hamming is looking very feisty there as well, and Zadov and Yitalo behind that with a softer compound tire. They will have a bit more pace compared to these drivers in front of them, and they will try to take advantage of that, of course, but it is difficult to get past here on this track.
Yeah, it is indeed, especially without DRS here, because you do lose, you're relying on the top speed and getting a run out of the corner instead of having the reduced drag of the, over the cut. But of course, these guys will make do with what they have anyway. We'll be able to save a bit of fuel in these little trains and make sure that they can go, a bit shorter in that pit stop, jump them on strategy alone. And it brings a bit of a strategical masterclass to the lower tiers, and I do like that as well, because it allows these guys to learn. Oh, is that Zaharov round? Is he going to keep it out of the wall? He is. He's going to keep it out of everyone else. Oh, this is not great, because it's over a blind corner as well. He's going to spin right in front of Palashek as well. That is not the way to go. Spin it to the right, not into the middle of the circuit, Zaharov. Jeez, you'd expect someone with the experience that he has to, not do that sort of thing. But, well, we all make mistakes, but that will promote a fair few drivers up a position as well. He's actually going to put Batala up into P9 now after that. Oh, just watching it back on the, watching it back here, it's very, very scary for some of those guys that had to come over that crest to see a car literally spinning back round in front of them. Not a great place to be.
Yeah, indeed. Asciutto, he got past Vagapov just a second ago, and I think somebody hit something. I heard something. I think it's Kevin Morville. No, he's still going, but he lost the position there to Adam Rainey a second ago. But the pressure on Mascherino is still there, but a bit less pronounced as it was just before, with Vagapov right behind. Of course, Mascherino will be feeling the pressure of Pasciutto behind him now of Royal Blue Racing. These guys are all very close to each other still.
Yes, indeed, and that gap has come out by people have been saying as well. I've just been looking at the relative forums and chats that we have, Felix. People going, oh, but the guy behind Skurron's on the hards. Well, Harry Smith's now behind him and has lost another second to Skurron. So, a driver that is known to be able to be up the front here in the Academy Championship is losing time to a recent promotee. So, wouldn't really say it's due to the tyre difference here. I'd just say it's due to a sheer pace difference from Skurron. But meanwhile, Pasciutto trying to find a way past Mascherino, but not going to work so far. Meanwhile, that is an AFP car having some issues, and that's Jake Dennehan. I believe, actually, that's Jake Dennehan defending from Rainey. I'm not too sure if he was actually making an overtake there. I didn't we caught the end of it, and I believe that was him defending, but a very wide defence, if that. But Adam Rainey in 14th on the hards for Invictus. Not had the best of seasons has Rainey. Always seems to end up sort of in the mid-pack around the back end of the point. So hopefully as the season goes on, he can find his way up the order. The driver that we all know is capable of doing it. He just never seems to get that weekend together. Always seems to lack in some little department.
And Danahan, he's massively struggling with this strategy that he chose. Like I said, because of that early stop that he did, he just rejoined within this 10th to 15th pack, and it's just getting stuck behind all these drivers with his fresher tires. He can't really use those tires to push for lap time. He needs to find ways past these drivers in front of him that are on older tires, more worn tires, and are generally also a bit slower, because he was of course driving second place at the start of the race, and all these drivers are down in 10th and further down. So I think a very difficult strategy choice for him. Maybe they know something that we don't, and this works out all in the end, but we'll have to wait and see about that.
We will indeed. It's very unusual for AFP to make a very unusual strategy call that they haven't thought through. It's worked out in the majority of the races they have done over the years. Meanwhile, that's Rainey into the pit lane behind on the hards, and that's also I see one of the Royal Blues, Andrea Miari-Soa, into the pit lane on the hards. So hard runners getting rid of those tyres as soon as they possibly can without losing too much. We'll see him go onto the softs now. Rainey will come in and go onto the softs as well. Of course, similar to what we saw at Imola, the guys running the hards for as short a period as possible and then using the softs to the end. Meanwhile, that's Danahan or Morville. Down the inside is going to be on the outside, but Morville's going to give the place up. And we'll let the AFP driver through. So Danahan back into the top 10 now. He's got Palachek not too far in front. We'll see if he can get past. They're actually trying to close down on the Netrex of Indrek Remets at the moment as well. Actually, that's a name we haven't spoken about. Remets currently in the top 10. Felix doing a very, very solid job for that Netrex squad. Not too far off the back of Gerard Batalla.
Yeah, he managed to finish 11th last time around in Portugal. So looking to improve on that again today. But of course, there are some guys that have stopped already. He hasn't. So we'll wait and see where he actually comes out. But if he can finish in that position, that will be a great position for him indeed. Palachek there in front of Danahan, taking a bit of a different line, perhaps trying to break the slipstream somewhat, coming down that back straight.
Yeah, indeed. And he's actually closing up to the back of Palachek as well. You know, he's getting ever so slowly, but of course, old softs versus new softs. We all know what's going to be quicker at this point in time. And great to see as well that we do only have the one retirement here on lap 10, Felix. You know, we have seen in races gone by in pretty much every tier of the championship where we've had a good 3 or 4 cars out by the end of the first period of the race. So great to see. It's such a clean race so far from the Academy Championship. Especially knowing how much this championship can be aggressive. Meanwhile, back up to the front, looking at Damien Scalron at the moment.
Gap
in a world, yeah, I was about to say it, in a world of his own. And of course, it's just amazing to see such a dominant drive actually as well from him. Won the first race of the AMA Championship at Imola and then promoted to pro for, I believe he was promoted to pro for Portugal, was he not, Felix? And did a solid job there. Now here again, or not pro, sorry, into Academy. And now here in Academy at the Nürburgring, he has just sailed away.
Yeah, you can see it on the track map as well on the right bottom of your screen. The car with the purple circle around it, that's the leader of the race. And then the car that we're watching now, Pasciuto, is the one with the green circle around it. You can see the gap between that visually is already quite big, quite substantial. And of course there's still pit stops to come. As we've still got 26 laps to go, but so far, pace-wise, Scarron is on a really good race so far. As Frank Hamming comes in for a set of soft tires, getting rid of those hards pretty early on, 11 laps into the race, looking to do 2 soft stints to the end. I would assume now 26 laps to go, as I said, and I think it's about 17 that you at max can get out of these. Tanks on this track.
Yeah, it's roughly about right. And of course, you know, the one thing that I think AFP decided to do was get Danahan in early, you know, get that stint out the way as soon as possible. 17, 20, 34. Yeah, so actually they are good to the end with that strategy, just trying to get something different done, I think, to maximise the time on the softs and the pace difference over Scaldron, but not seeming to work out, of course, being stuck in traffic so early on. But Hamming will come out behind. Where's he come out behind? He's come out behind Rusinak, so he's out behind someone who's on the hard.
Yeah.
So not worked out all too well for the HME driver, but of course, plenty of time left in this race, and of course, Rusinak still has to hit, obviously, at least once more this race. Just trying to have a look if there is actually anyone else close on track at all, Felix.
Yeah,
because again, yeah, Danahan on Palashek, because these guys, well, they've been close enough as it is for the past, you know, 4 or 5 laps, sorry. And now, let's see if Danahan can get a move done. He's obviously in the dirty air of Palashek. Let's see what he can do. It's going to be very, very tight through here. We ride on board. Such a tight sector 1. You've got to try and find a line that works, and you know, doesn't lose too much time. A little slide there is going to drop him back a couple of tenths, and just not ideal of an exit at the end of first sector. Meanwhile, that is Hamming has gotten his way up into 13th. So next car on track for him will be Amphicetus. Yes, so Amphicetus soon to come under pressure potentially from the HME of Hamming. And great to see Frank Hamming running in the points once again. Of course, just looking up as well, see if there are any standout names that are, you know, higher or lower than they should be. And Vagabond actually is down in 16th. He pitted early, didn't he, Felix? From the half, from where he was in the top 10. Yeah. So Vagabond not really making the same sort of gains as Danahan has. Obviously down in 16th. He's about 2.5 off of Andrea Mia-Harry Soa. Scaldron is in the pits. Now this is the crucial one, because where will he come out in regards to Danahan? Obviously we know he's going to be out a fair way ahead, but it's a case of how far of a way ahead. Well, he's out the pits now on the throttle. He's actually going to come out ahead of Yelitalo. Not Yelitalo, sorry, Batala. So he's coming out ahead of guys that are still yet to stop. And Danahan is going to see that ahead of him and go, well, that didn't work, did it?
Yeah, he is... how many seconds is that? About 5-6 seconds behind this. So, yeah, that hasn't really worked out for him. Of course, Scarbon is now on the harder compound and Danahan is on the softer compound. But Danahan has already been on this compound for 8 laps now. So those tires will be starting to wear out, starting to lose some grip, some pace. And those fresh hard tires from Damian Scauren will still be pretty good. And will be pretty good for quite a long time, of course, because of the harder compound.
Yeah, and it was a great reactionary strategy by Scauren as well to go. Probably, I assumed he'd probably gone to the hards at the end stint, depending on how things went. But going on to the hards now, knowing that Danahan is stuck in traffic, and knowing that he's going to have, well, after he clears Yelitalo, he's going to have an 11 seconds of clean air up to Pasciuto in front. So great to see, you know, reactionary strategy coming in play. Speaking of Danahan, he's on the back of Palashek again, and you can see Indirect Remits actually not too far up the road. Well, he's not got to worry about Palashek anymore, as he will dive down into the pit lane and give some nice clean air to the AFP car of Danahan. Morville actually inside the top 10 now as well, Felix. And Pasciuto actually in the pits as well, so Zate will be up to 7th.
Yeah, a lot of drivers taking their first pit stops now. Still a few to come, of course. Harry Smith, Christian Mosserino, Tommy Yelitalo, all yet to stop. But of course, Caron is already on the back of Yelitalo. They will be hoping to get past him pretty swiftly, I would assume. Palotzek has made a mistake, I think, dropping down a few positions. Yeah, he is struggling to fight with Lukczak there.
So
just coming out of the pits.
Yeah, I was going to say, potentially a mistake out of the pits, or just got caught out by Lukczak there. Lukczak actually into the points now, so great to see another one of the Royal Blue drivers into the points. Not far off of Vagapov, who's now into 14th. Meanwhile, we look at Scaldron, who's on the back of Tommy Yelitalo, the championship leader, currently under pressure from well, the young, I was about to say the young gun there, but it doesn't seem right in sim racing to say the young gun. But on the back of the hard charger, and we'll see what Scoudon can do. A little bit of a rear end slide on the power for Scoudon, but we'll see what he can do if he can get past the Team Felix driver. Of course, getting past Yelitalo is not an easy thing, as the leaders are in Motorino and Harry Smith both in. We'll see how far actually they come out and where they'll actually come out in regards to Dennehan. Dennehan's going to go through by a fair margin as well. So that is actually rather surprising to see how far down Harry Smith actually is. Even with the traffic for Dennehan, Felix, Harry Smith down in 6th and, well, about 9 seconds off the back of Dennehan.
Yeah, of course we spotted as well that Dennehan had a really relatively short stop, about 7 seconds. Both Smith and Mosserino all had 12 second stops, so that's already 4 or 5 seconds extra that they gained in their pit stop, or lost in their pit stop. Depends on how you look at it, of course. But later on in the race, that's going to be the other way around, I assume. Then Dennehan is going to have to take that longer stop. So we'll see what happens there. Now, though, Scarron is going to be, I think, getting past Yelitalo pretty soon. Down the back straight, up the hill. Having a bit of a look in the mirrors, of course, with the fresher tires. He's able to brake much later. But Yelitalo not going into the pit just yet.
I think Yelitalo is running this hard stint as long, oh not this hard stint, sorry, this soft stint as long as he can. Trying to obviously minimise the time he will be on those hard tyres. Something similar to what obviously Scoudon is doing as well. But obviously Scoudon wants to get past because he knows he's not got much of a gap now to Dennehan. He's actually only about 3 seconds back, but of course we know that Dennehan has to take that longer stop potentially later on. But Yelitalo, for how far down he started, Felix, he's running well, and I think he could actually be inside the top 10, maybe even the top, inside the top 10 after his pit stop, but we'll have to wait and see. It depends how short of a stop he actually takes. It's a rather long pit lane here, but of course, the way that the strategies will work out, I have a feeling he could end up in a very, very high place himself. But of course, we now have a fight for 5th between Morville, Pasciuto, and Harry Smith. So it's Netrex, Royal Blue, and actually not too sure who Morville is with. I didn't actually quite catch it before before hopping on today, Felix.
Competition.
Competition. So great to see those guys actually up there as well. And not far in the back, I believe that's actually Motorino. Not too far back either. It is. So
yep.
4-way fight for the top 5. 1 car on the hards and the rest all on the softs. Well, at least all Morville has to do is just look in his mirror and go, oh, there's 3 behind me. Right, I'll carry on them, because everyone else is going to be too busy scrapping with each other to really worry. Although I say that, Pasciuto having a look as well. Meanwhile, fight for the lead now between Scoudon and Yelitalo. Yelitalo would have had a very poor exit out of the final corner for Scoudon to have a look. And he's going to dive to the inside of turn 1. He's going to push him out as wide as he can, and he's going to get that move done as well. Yelitalo will drop down to 2nd. Batala into the pit lane from 4th, so that moves these guys up as well. Morville in as well. Harry Smith trying to have a look to the inside of Pasciuto. Pasciuto actually having jumped Harry Smith, I believe, because he was behind him before the whole pit cycle came through, I believe, Felix. So Harry trying to make his way back through, and it's at 11.2 seconds the gap for these guys. So, you know how I said I believe that Yelitalo might come out in the top 10? I don't think he might come out in the top 5 at this rate.
Jake Dennehan already getting past Yelitalo now. Scarron lost quite a bit of time behind Yelitalo there. And Dennehan now only 2 seconds behind him, of course, on the softer tire, but also on older softer tires. 12 laps old now. So I think they will be pretty evenly matched between the tires of Scarron and Dennehan. Have to wait and see how that actually turns out. Gap is now 2 seconds. Let's see back in a few laps what that is going to be. But Scarron really struggled in that first few laps behind Yelitalo.
Yeah, indeed. It'll be interesting to see as Yelitalo finally will bail. It'll be interesting to see what tyres he goes on to. I wouldn't be surprised if he actually goes onto the hards for this mid-stint, knowing where he actually is in regards to everyone else. So he'll drop in onto the limiter. will have a nice clean stop. I'll actually be interested to see how long his stop is and see what he does. If he does something similar to Dennehan and goes for a rather short stop in the middle, we'll see. Pulls in, stops on his marks, up onto the jacks. Another set of softs for the Felix driver. So he'll be going onto those hards at the end of the race, Felix. And, well, he's going to drop. But he does drop out of the top 5, and he's going to drop out of the top 10. So a very long stop for Yelitalo. But it will allow these guys to fight for third. That's Paschuto, Smith, and Mocharino. These guys doing all they can, or at least to try and bridge that gap to Dennehan, but not working too much. And of course, Dennehan only about, what, 1.7 seconds off the back of Scout on that. So be interesting to see what he can do with just over half the race left to go. Felix, well, already at half distance, Felix. This race doesn't feel like it's been going that long at all.
Yeah, 19 laps to go. It's been a good race so far. That battle for the lead is going to be very interesting. Right now, down to 1.5 seconds almost between Dennehan and Skyron. Dennehan still seeming to have quite a bit of pace on those soft tires, even though they're worn out. They're starting to wear quite a bit right now. Let's see this last lap. Yeah, 129.8 for Skyron, 129.5 for Dennehan. So Dennehan still a little bit quicker on those soft tires. But for how long is he going to be able to keep that up? And when is he going to have to stop? Because he is, of course, now 14 laps into this stint.
Yeah, it'll be interesting to see indeed. And just having a bit of a look up and down the field, just just keeping an eye on things as I always do, and just seeing some of the gaps. Obviously, people getting closer and closer. And actually, that penalty, I believe, was for Pelishek, wasn't it, Felix? That jump start penalty actually put him in the end behind Morville. So Morville into the top 15. Great to see actually for him. Be interesting to see actually if he can hold that for the rest of this race, because of course. Not too far back is actually Laurent. Meanwhile, on board with Frank Hamming, he's on the back of Amphitzidis. So HME versus AFP. Of course, Amphitzidis actually, I believe, is a stand-in driver for this round. Not too sure, but I believe it's what I saw when I was looking at the forums earlier. My memory is failing me, Frank Hamming. You are very, very lucky indeed to hold that HME in a straight line after that slide. And well, after that slide, I think Indrek Remitz is sort of rubbing his hands together. Oh, never mind, he's just run out onto the gravel. But I was going to say, he's having a bit of a rub of his hands and going, oh, I might have a chance here. But no, then proceeds to run out onto the gravel himself. So, will be interesting to see. But has a feeling that Amphitzidis is really struggling on those tyres at the moment, because Hamming is really reeling that in. And even after that slide, Felix, he's already back to where he was.
Yeah. Let's see, having a little bit of a peak coming into turn 1, but he's surely too far back to do anything. He's keeping close though.
Yeah, he is indeed, as I said. Be interesting to see. And of course, you won't get anything done for the first sector unless you're very much alongside. So it'll be a case of if you can maybe make a move into the hairpin, or maybe down the back straight into the final chicane. As they make their way out of the first sector, he has dropped back by a couple of tenths, so Dirtiat not really, gonna be too much for it. It still will be, but of course not as bad as if you're completely under the back of him getting that beautifully annoying arrow wash, as you've just witnessed there. We'll come out of the hairpin and head up towards CS. And they've actually dropped Remitz again, so Remitz really, really struggling to keep up with these two. But still with a decent gap on Batalla. Meanwhile, actually, just looking back down the order, Felix, Yelitalo is only half a second off the back of Batalla now. So Yelitalo still in that top 10 and actually making his way back up through the field. So could be a very, very good result on for him after starting outside of the points for the championship leader. But Hamming not close enough to do anything, bouncing over the curbs. As that is Scouron in. That's him getting off of those hards. 17 laps, Felix. Well, there's only... There's 17 to go.
7 laps on those.
Yeah, you only need to do 7 or 8 laps, Felix, to really, make it to the end. We saw it at Imola, we saw it at Portugal, we can see it here again, as he will come out of the pits behind that fighting group of Remitz having an Amphitzidis. yeah, but we know these guys have got to come in the nearish future, depending on how the strategy plays out for those guys. So it'll be interesting to see. And obviously, by that logic, we should actually be expecting Dennehan in anytime soon, Felix, because of course we know that Dennehan went short on that first stop in terms of fueling. So it'll be interesting to see indeed, but it will be interesting to see where Scouron will come, how quickly Scouron will get through these guys, of course, because we know that Scouron is a very quick driver, and we know that he has got the aggression to be able to get through. Meanwhile, that looked like Hamming trying to have a look at Ampatseed. It's not going to get the move done there. It's going to bring Remits in. These guys have actually really slowed up to allow Remits to run onto the back of them. So there must have been a move made somewhere for these guys to be extremely close, Felix. Or maybe a little bit of a tangle. But they will be one by one in a 4 in a row. And that's going to be Scouron trying to have a look. But Remits will shut the door. The effective race leader, as that is actually Dennehan in the pits, reacting instantly, Felix. So this could be interesting to see what happens. Hamming not going to be able to make the move work here. But he might get him on the exit. He's going to be on the inside of Ampatseed. As Ampatseed is actually trying to come into the pit lane. So that was not great timing at all. But he's going to allow Hamming up the order. He's going to allow Remits there as well. Dennehan is leaving his pit box. He's going to be overtaken by these guys, but he's not going to be far off the back at all. And he's going to be on fresh softs as well. You can see him there, just leaving the pits. Around the outside for Scouron. Is Remits going to be able to hold this? No, he's not. He's going to have to let Scouron go through.
Yeah, and Dennehan indeed not too far behind. It's about 4 seconds, of course, like we said. This pit stop for Dennehan was a bit longer than his first pit stop, of course, because he took a very short first stint. But I think with the fresh soft tires, if he can keep up the pace, he should be able to perhaps challenge Scouron a little bit. But I think it's going to be difficult for him, being 4 seconds behind already now. With 15 laps to go, you see it in the first stint that on equal kind of tires, Dennehan is quite quick.
You have to remember though, Felix, that Dennehan did start on those hard tyres, so we'll be interested to see what he can actually do in terms of now being on, that soft rubber on the exact same tyres. We know in qualifying it was extremely close between the two, so it'll probably be trading tenths, maybe hundredths a lap. But of course, at the moment, Dennehan's got clean air. Scouron hasn't, unless Hamming decides to pull into the pit lane, which he does. So scratch everything I just said. Now it'll be a battle of lap time until Remits is causing any strife. Yelitalo actually up to 9th. He's actually past Ampatseed, so Yelitalo could be looking at a top 5 here today, Felix, which I believe is extremely possible. Great to see as well, actually, for the championship leader. And he's actually on still half a second behind Batalla, so hasn't made any inroads onto the Royal Blue driver, but has been running a very solid pace. Probably just saving his tyres a little bit to make sure he's got enough for the rest of the race. And I believe, actually, has Yelitalo got to pit again? Or did he come in the first out of this lot? I can't actually remember.
He hasn't pit for a second time yet.
So he's still yet to pit, actually, so I take that back. He's probably looking at a top 10 at best. Apologies. I actually thought Yelitalo had pitted twice. Apologies.
Yeah, but of course there's also quite a lot of other guys that still need to pit in that top 10. Only Scouron and Dennehan so far have pitted twice within the top 10. So I think Yelitalo still has indeed a good chance to get that top 10. Of course, he's going to have a very short final stint because we saw him do 2 relatively long first stints.
Yeah, she did an extremely long stint on those hards at start, so he's going to have some very, very fresh, soft rubber at the end of this race, Felix, to, really hammer in some lap time. So it'll be interesting to see how much he actually pushes and how many people he can overtake around here as well. Meanwhile, fight for the lead between Pasciutto and Smith. Not the first time that we've seen the Netrex up the front of the field, and won't be the last, I'm sure. But of course, these guys still yet to stop for the final time, for their second and last time, sorry. And obviously, Mocherino is not far off the back, 3.5 seconds and 10.4 back to, obviously, Damien Scouron. Or so, well, 9.5 now, sorry. But of course, these guys really trying just to eke out as much as they can. They've actually got traffic up the road, and I believe that's Rushinak in 24th, the final running car. Not too sure, it could either be him or it could actually, no, that would be David O'Reilly, I apologise. not far up the road. Meanwhile, ding ding, round 1, it's Denahan versus Remits. So we'll see what happens. He's going to dive down the inside. Remits is going to shut the door. He's going to then open it back up. Denahan's going to slightly tag the back of him. But Remits did open that door. So obviously seeing that Denahan was braking so late. But a little nudge, no harm done there. It did a little shove him out of the way, but Denahan will be up to 5th now, 4.5 seconds off of the back of Scauron. So it'll be interesting to see what he can do. But meanwhile, there's Remits actually coming into the pit lane at Felix and just actually looking. 24 runners still, only 4 retirements. Zalijanis, Rainy, Moscato and Pignataro. Rainy, I believe, with an accident. Moscato as well with an accident. I believe he's actually left the team now after that, which is a sad sight to see because he was running so well. Obviously, Pignataro out with the accident on lap 1, and I'm not actually too sure what happened to Zalijanis. So I don't know if you know at all, Felix, but be interested to hear what happened to him if we find out what happened. But outside of that, Denahan obviously up to 4th now as Remits pitted, and obviously Batala is about 8.5 seconds off the back of them now. Remits actually out in 11th, so good points haul is going to be coming that way for the Netrex team. I'd be actually interested to see if that gap comes down between Scaldon and Denahan, because both of them are in clean air. 11 seconds away from pretty much anyone now is Scauron. And obviously Denahan only 4 seconds back. Meanwhile, Smith and Pasciuto 3/10 between them. Be interesting to see if either of those actually benefits because of the traffic in front of them, Felix.
Yeah, I think they're pitting in the next few laps, but interestingly, Denahan versus Scauron lap time wise.
Both of them are in as well.
Yeah, lap time wise, Scauron is really smashing Denahan out of the park at the moment. Last few laps for Scauron have all been 28.6, 28.7, 28.9, 28.9. And Denahan, he's been doing 28.8, 29.4. This lap, though, is a really nice lap personal best for Denahan, 28.7. So, interestingly, Scauron has been a little bit quicker, but Denahan isn't completely out of the fight yet, but he needs to get closer quickly because the gap is 4 seconds. There's only 11 laps to go.
Oh, and that's Yelitalo. That's Yelitalo off. What's happened to Tommy Yelitalo? I don't think he's got any damage. I think he kept out of the wall. Might have just been a harmless little spin, but obviously yet to stop his Yelitalo. We're going to ride on board. He's side by side with, I believe it's Smith. Oh, and they just come together. Did he have enough room on the outside there, or because it looked like he was very close to the curb, Felix, and maybe just Harry misjudged it and just turned him around slightly. But such a shame for Yelitalo. Well, hopefully he doesn't lose too much time from that in the grand scheme of things, and hopefully he doesn't actually have too much damage with the contact to the front right of the car. Meanwhile, Batala has got Harry Smith only a second back. And obviously, Batala yet to stop. And I believe Pasciuto is yet to stop as well, Felix. Not too certain on that one. But of course, you'll be able to correct me if I'm wrong.
Yeah, Batala still to stop. Yelitalo still to stop. Morville still to stop. And that's about it within the top 10. Everybody else has stopped twice so far.
Also, Pasciuto's gained a lot of time actually on these guys, on Harry Smith now. He's actually jumped him by a fair margin. So, very impressive from Pasciuto. Looking for a very nice podium here today. And I don't think he's actually had a podium yet this season. Just trying to see where he finished last time out, if he did at all. And no, he actually wasn't here last time out. So, great to actually see that he's running so high up here today at the Nürburgring. Harry Smith trying to get past Batala. Obviously, as you said, you get to stop, and those hard tyres not going to be too much of a challenge to the soft running Batala at this stage. And again, it's still only a second and a half back to Macherino behind. Yelitalo's still only about 3 seconds back off him. So it'll be interesting to see. We've still got plenty of time left. About just we've got 10 laps to go. So 10 laps to go as they will cross the line. So not long left in this race. Obviously, the final stoppers will be making their hits within the next 2 or 3 laps, Felix. So we're going to find out whereabouts the order is not too long from now.
Yeah, all the way down in P22, David O'Reilly and Zyrov have been battling for a bit, I think. Zyrov just got past O'Reilly. I'm not sure if O'Reilly will be able to fight back here. Ooh, as I think we're seeing Harry Smith come into the pit together with Kevin Morville. Harry Smith actually had a penalty. He must have sped in the pit, I guess, then. Let's have a look. He dropped down all the way to P8 now with Frank Hamming right behind him. Let's see if I can find out what actually happened for Harry Smith. Did he speed in the pit lane on his coming out? I don't know.
Maybe sped on the way in.
Yeah, maybe he could have sped indeed on the way in. Let's see if I can find that.
Here we go. So in behind, obviously, Pashuto. No, he can't have sped on the way.
Yeah, he did.
Oh, yeah. Okay,
limiter.
never mind then. So that'll also be what lost him so much time actually as well, because he had to deal with obviously, basically brake checking himself at the back of Pashuto. So I had a feeling, I was about to say, he'll most likely usually get the penalty for speeding on entry. So Harry Smith. Speeding on entry is going to drop him actually behind the driver that he was fighting with not too long ago. But I don't think it's going to affect him too much in the grand scheme of things. He's only half a second ahead of Frank Hamming, who has actually made his final stop from what I remember. Yep. So Hamming looking very, very handy for a potential top 5 here, Felix.
Yeah, perhaps.
Actually, not even potential top 5. I take that back. 4th place potentially if he gets past Smith, because obviously, with everyone else in front yet to stop outside of Smith, this is going to be the fight for 4th on track.
Eight laps to go still. Mosserino behind Battala still, but Battala still has to stop. Kevin Morville and Andrea Miazola side by side into turn 1 here.
Oh, indeed. Side by side, Morville actually looking good. And obviously, he, I believe, has just made his final stop as well, has he not? So, great job to actually get past Andrea Miazola. Doing a very, very solid job. Is that Morville actually might be looking potentially towards the top 10 if you can get the pace, keep the pace up. And actually, if anyone else in front has to make a final stop that we aren't aware of. But, yeah, very, very solid drive from the Competizione driver. Doing a very solid job indeed. So we're going to have a look where he finished last time out, because not too sure. Actually, yeah, finished 9th last time out at the Portugal. So great to see. He's running a bit lower down than he did last time out, but of course it's been a bit less of a hectic race this one compared to the race we had last time out at Portugal, Felix.
Yeah, Garen, he's still 7.5 seconds, sorry. 4.7 seconds in the lead at the moment. Mosserino.
Oh, that's Macherino round from P5, and there's Yelitalo in the background, who I believe half spun it himself actually. So Macherino will lose the rear end, followed by Yelitalo. If anyone else loses the rear end, please make sure to send your rear tyres to the following address. www.formulasimracing tyres need reworking. But of course, these guys, small little mistakes like that, nothing too unusual. You see it all the time, all up and down the tiers here. And obviously 6 laps to go when Scalderon crosses the line, so not too long to go for these guys. And of course, we'll be expecting Yelitalo and Macherino into the pits anytime soon, actually, with how long is left in the race. There'll be a relatively short stop as well, actually, for these guys, so will look very, very nice and handy indeed. We'll see if they do actually come into the pits this time by, because of course, with 6 laps to go, not too high tyre wear, and well, Yelitalo will stay out. Did Motorino come in? No, he stayed out as well.
But see, this is getting a bit close to Frank Hamming, but Hamming in his turn is dropping back also a bit from Harry Smith. Tire-wise, his tires are pretty similar to Ampatsidis, but on pace, at least the last couple of laps, Ampatsidis has been a bit quicker than Frank Hamming. Hamming struggling here in the last couple of laps of this race, only 6 to go. Scarron still comfortably in the lead, and I don't think Danahan got anything on him at the moment, at least not on pace, of course. Scarron still needs to get to the finish, which is always
easier said than done.
Yeah.
Oh, be interesting indeed. Of course, as we say, easier said than done. And well, I think we all know that phrase all too well, Felix, from the races that we've done over the years. Yourself, especially with endurance racing. Years ago now, that the last time I saw you drive an endurance race, especially at Le Mans. But I know you've been keeping yourself at least somewhat active in the whole racing scene. As that is Yelitalo into the pit lane, so that'll be Yelitalo making his final stop. Be interested to see where he comes out, actually. He's just about to stop in his box, and now... well, sorry, I say now, give it a few seconds. There we go. Onto the hard tyre. He's running the hards again?
I don't think he did already.
I thought he ran the hards for a long stint at the start of the race.
No, he didn't. He had a long soft stint.
Interesting, then I retract my statement. I thought I remember seeing him on the whitewall tyres at the start of the race, so... well, not long, and he's in the top 10, so he's looking very, very handy indeed, especially for when Motorino comes in. Will come through. We're currently now looking at Jara Patala, who is also yet to stop. Yet to make his final stop, I should say, sorry. And Patala actually a fair while ahead of Motorino, obviously 6 seconds now. So Patala's looking very good. I just saw... did I just see a tyre there, Felix? That camera angle made it look like I saw a tyre because Vagapov is out of the race. Could that be related?
Let's have a look.
I'm sure I saw a tyre from that camera angle. What has happened to Vagapov? Comes through. He's in traffic through the left-hander. And it was a tyre I saw. I didn't think I was far wrong seeing a tyre across there. Oh, see, my keen eye strikes once again. This is why I do this job, Felix. I'm so good at pointing things out. As you've known for all the years now. But that is a shame for Vagapov, running so well, and then just a slight little error on the exit. Lights the rears up and into the wall. Live and learn. He'll be back for the next one. Harder, better, faster, and stronger. But it also promotes a few guys actually up the order. And that means that we only have 23 cars remaining. Only 20 on the lead lap, actually. David O'Reilly is still on the lead lap, Felix. He's avoided going a lap down this entire race. He's been very close to being a lap down, but he's avoided it so far. But, well, Damien Scarron isn't exactly too far off the back of him now. Yeah,
just one corner behind him now. With 3 laps to go now. Might be able to stay ahead, but we'll see. David O'Reilly in 20th position right now. Managed to get 13th in the first race and DNF'd in the second race, but I think he got a really, really good start in that second race and actually DNF'd because of the brakes failing at some point. So far, the brakes have been well for him, but let's hope he's done the calculation right this time and gets to the end of the race. Not far to go.
No, he's doing a very solid job as well. He drives in the AMA Championship for the majority of the season, and then does the occasional... well, he's done 3 reserve races in a row now in the Academy, of course. But that is also noticing that Batala has come into the pit lane of Felix and has come out ahead of Rimet in Yelitalo. So that little that spin that Yelitalo had because of Smith means that he's actually dropped behind Batala, which is not great going, which is a shame to see for the title leader, but he will be getting some solid points actually from this race. So not too disappointing, I don't think, for him. Meanwhile, the race seems to have died down a bit now. Obviously, Harry Smith still has Hamming about half a second off the back of him, but apart from that, everyone seems to have found their own little group. Although, although Felix, Palashek has Laurent for company about half a second back as well for the final points paying position. Obviously, these guys in that traffic as well, which is all being held up behind Modacek. So it'll be interesting to see indeed. Obviously, Hamming not far off the back of Smith, as you see on your screens now with there. So I will get it right eventually. Ampatsidis not far off the back of him either.
Two laps to go, and yeah, the gap to Danahan in Skywon is now really starting to grow bigger and bigger. Lost about a second in the last lap. Danahan must have made a mistake somewhere. This battle, though, it's going to get feisty, I think. Of course, Hamming wants to get that 5th place as much as Harry Smith does, and Ampatsidis is going to try and take that position away from Frank Hamming and perhaps also Harry Smith himself as well.
And of course, Harry on that hard compound of tyre as well. So it's going to be at a tyre disadvantage, but of course at this stage, the tyre difference isn't going to be too much of a worry for these guys, of course, because they've all been on each set of tyre for roughly about the point where the crossover happens, where you can't tell which one is faster. But of course, Smith running slightly wide to the head, but it's going to give a better run for Hamming. So they'll go up through the S. Steady as really not going to help through here. Looking for the back of the Netrex now with Smith. He's really, obviously, as you said, will really want to keep that, especially with how his race has gone today. Obviously, not the cleanest and not the quickest, but a top 5 would still be a great result for your round 1 podium sitter, and obviously onto the final lap as well. So will we see a desperation move from Hamming, or will he keep it clean and just take home the points? We know that Hamming is very good at keeping it clean and consistent and just, bringing the car home. But we will see. So the gap, by the way, for the lead is 6 seconds. Scaleron has just lit up into the distance. And that's actually Ampatsidis trying to have a little look at Hamming there. Not going to make it work through turn 1, sir, but maybe you'll make it work a bit later on if you keep the pace up. But it'll be interesting to see indeed. Obviously, the AFP driver. The 2 AFP cars in the top 10. So great to see for those guys keeping that points consistency going. But meanwhile, this is pretty much the closest fight we actually have on track as well to the end. Scouron actually just entering the final sector. He's just about to go through the kink. He has put O'Reilly a lap down. So only 19 cars on the lead lap. Well, I say only. It's actually very impressive indeed. But he has led pretty much from lights to flag outside of the pit stop cycles, Felix. And as a recent AMA promotee, he will take his first victory in the Academy Championship here at the Nürburgring for the Ground Effect SimRacing team. Danahan will come across the line, 6 seconds back in second for Absteneo Force Polonia. Third place will be Pasiuto for Royal Blue Racing. Great drive from the Royal Blue guys to get that podium as well. Strategy pulled off pretty much to perfection. Fourth place is going to be Macharino as well. Great drive from him as well to come home. And then it is going to be that Smith, Hamming, and Ampatsidis fight for 5th, 6th, and 7th, with Smith taking home P5. Batala will come home a very respectable 8th, actually, with how his strategy played out. Remit's 9th. Yelitalo will finish inside of the top 10. So decent recovery and decent damage limitation for the title leader. Morval will finish 11th. Very respectable for him as well. The competition driver finishing in just outside of the top 10. Lushak will just finish ahead of Morchak as well in 12th and 13th. Andrea Mia Harrison 14th, and Laurent will take home P15 for Netrex, getting past Palchak 16th. Obviously, 17th will be Reboli, 18th Jones, 19th Ian Akone, then O'Reilly, Zahov, Bergen, and Rushanek round out the remaining finishers with Vagapov, Zalagianis, Rainy, Moscato, and Pignataro rounding out the retirements. What a race, Felix. We actually had a very good race on our hands here at the Nürburgring for the third round of the Formula SimRacing Academy Championship, brought to you by 3D Rap, Maziata eSports, and of course, SimLab. Sorry, my brain is fried now, Felix. It's amazing how much a race can do to you. But of course, 36 laps around the Nürburgring Grand Prix circuit with plenty of action, plenty of strategy, and plenty of talking points to take away from this race. And of course, we'll be able to talk about all of those the next time we come back to the Formula SimRacing Academy Championship in a week's time with the Dutch Grand Prix with myself and Felix van Delft again on the commentary and the camera team. So it'll be great to have you again for what is actually your home Grand Prix, Felix. So plenty to talk about, and well, you'll be able to talk a bit more about the circuit in depth, seeing as you know it so well, good sir. So, of course, at the end of all, that is all we'll have time for. Of course, remember, not too long from now, we will have the Formula SimRacing Pro Championship brought to you by SimLab, Maziata eSports, and, of course, SimLab as well. And then, of course, later on in the evening, we'll have the World Championship, the Race World Championship brought to you by the Race SimLab, 3D Rap, and Maziata eSports as well. Of course, Felix, do you have any closing words before we bring off the end of what has been another amazing race?
Not really. I would just like everybody to also tune in indeed for the next couple of races that we've got coming up, the Pro and the World Championship race. Make sure to not miss those days. Will be even more exciting perhaps than we've seen here in the Academy Championship. But yeah, I think that's about it for me.
Well, of course, Felix, as always, it's been a pleasure being on the broadcast with you. I love being on these broadcasts with you. And of course, great to be back here for the 2021 Formula Sim Racing season. And apparently, I've just got a message as well for that penalty, Felix. Harry Smith double tapped the limiter. We'll leave you with those closing thoughts. But of course, thank you ever so much for joining myself and Felix van Delft here for the Formula Sim Racing Academy Championship. And until next time at the Dutch Grand Prix, it's goodbye for now.